Hi, this is Jean Marie Taylor. As promised, I'm going to do a quick walkthrough of the My Clarita site, which you'll need for the week 7 discussion number 4. What you're seeing on the screen right now is actually a video from a couple of years ago, as I said in the announcement. I am remaking this because the site has changed a little bit. I think you could still work out the navigation based on the video I've provided, but I did want to go ahead and try to get this updated. I apologize for my voice, which may go in and out a little bit. So first of all, this discussion is going to give you some more experience working with a tool as we did in the second discussion when we looked at Kickstarter. This one in particular deals with market segmentation. Now there are lots of tools out there, but this is an example of one. It's free to us. At least the versions we'll be looking at, the pieces of it that we're looking at, are free. My Clarita collects information from, or data, from a lot of different sites, including the census, Nielsen ratings. They work with Google and other huge entities that collect a lot of personal data from individuals. So just as a quick reminder, your initial post is due on Thursday, February 28th. And I'm just going to do a little quick walkthrough of the instructions. So we're going to go to this My Clarita's My Best Segment site here shortly. But what you're going to do essentially is you're going to choose a zip code. You can choose whatever zip code you'd like. It's helpful if you have some connection to it, I think, because that makes it more meaningful for you for what you'll do for the rest of this assignment. Once you input that particular zip code into the My Best Segments site, you will be provided with a bunch of information. And what I'd like you to do is to explore that information, and then I want you to describe the market segments that have been identified in your search. That's here number 4. And I mean that beyond the name, but tell me about those. Tell me about demographic and lifestyle and media traits. And you can poke around and I'll show you this. This is really a fun kind of tool to play with. You'll see, I think, or you'll be prompted to think about lots of different ways in which you might be able to use this, which is the next part of this, and that is to explain how you'd use this information in a meaningful way. One thing that's going to be really important is I'd like you to make the subject of your post the zip code you used and the name of the city. But that's going to help people who are reading your information or choosing which ones they want to look at. On the back side, on the peer interaction side, once all the initial posts are up, or once some of them are up, I want you to go and respond to 2 of your peers in their initial threads, at least 2. Remember, take a look at that rubric. As you all know, you cannot earn full credit by responding simply to 2 peers. To earn an A in the discussion, you have to respond to 3, which is above and beyond. 2 is the minimum requirement, 3 is above and beyond, which is more of an A level, in addition to responding to people in your own thread. All right, so let's go back up here. Oh, let me go back down here, because what I didn't finish saying was, what I want you to do is to suggest several products or services that could have success in this particular area, and specifically why those products and services would be successful. I want you to think very carefully about your rationale for those. Make sure that you aren't making assumptions. So think about, what are my assumptions that I'm making here? All right, now back up. So when you click on this link, you'll see we'll get My Clarita's to open in a new window. For me, it opens in a new tab. For you, depending on how your browser is set up, it might open in a new window. And we're going to click on zip code lookup right here at the top. All right, this is where we're going to put in our zip code. I'm going to put in normal zip code and submit. All right. Over on the left, you'll see information. Here it is. You'll see some information on this side here. This tells us about 5 of the segments that are typically found in this area, and it shows you the area here on the right. These are not listed in any particular order. It's really, really important that you understand that these segments, while we know what they are, it does not tell us the strength of any of these segments. In order to know how big of a segment that is, we have to purchase the full version of this tool. We're not going to do that. So remember, this is not in any particular order. It doesn't tell us how many people are in this segment. All it does is it tells us that this segment is represented in this particular zip code. We might be able to make some assumptions later on. We can deduce some things. I'll show you a little bit about that. I will get back to that again, but let's go down a little bit. And you'll see here we have some information, some additional information. We're looking right now at households by income. That's that information here. We'll see we have quite a few down here in the lower end, which is interesting. You know, right here in the middle, this here, there are quite a few actually. If you think about in the state of Illinois, you know, 60,000 being middle class, and that includes the entire state. We've got quite a few above that. I mean, there's also household composition that we could look at, and then population by age. You'll see we have a lot of 18 to 20-year-olds. We're much higher represented in Normal or in this district, in this zip code. The 18 to 20-year-olds and the 21 to 24-year-olds. I'm sure that you can guess that this really is a very large student population that we have here between Illinois State University, Heartland Community College. We have a lot of students that live in this area. And then we have some race and ethnicity information. So it's kind of nice to look around at this particular information and see what it might be able to tell us. This is our demographic information. So I'm going to head back up. This is Prism Premier that we're looking at right here. If we look at the cycle, this tells us this is segmented a little bit differently. And we can look at this and it's going to update to looking at the segments in this area in a little bit of a different way. And then also we can look at the connections tool, which segments it even differently, the information even differently. But I'm going to go back to Premiere for the moment, and I'm just going to choose a segment so that we can take a look at these. So if we look at, for example, how about Middleburg managers? So upscale middle-aged family mix. To see more about that segment, we click on it. And again, this will open in a new tab or a new window, depending on how your browser is set up. And it will take a minute or two to render. That is, there's a map that's going to pop up on the right here. And that particular map is going to kind of scroll out. It's going to be off your page a little bit, but I'll see what I can do to get that back. Again, this can be a little bit slow as it brings up that particular map. What it's doing is it's showing, that map will show you this segment, and it will show you where in the country we can find that segment and where those individuals are concentrated. So before, when I said it doesn't tell us the strength of that, this map does help us kind of figure out a little bit differently about where we might find this particular segment across the country. So our snapshot is the only information that we're going to be able to see. We don't have access to any of these others because this is part of the paid version and we are not in the paid version. But it will tell you the number of U.S. households and the median household income. Median household income is quite high here, $94,000. It tells us something about the demographic change, the demographic traits of this particular group. Graduate plus, income producing assets, that's like stocks and bonds and property. And that actually is elite, very high. Lifestyle and media traits is always good to look at. This is going to be important too for your discussion. Owns a Mazda, eats at Chipotle, shops Nordstrom Rack, goes hiking, backpacking, visits Canada, visits HuffPost, listens to rock music. Again, if you look at this age greater than 55, that makes a lot of sense. Over here, these top 5 counties, these are the top 5 counties in the country. DuPage County, which is, for those of you familiar with the state of Illinois, that is up north of us in Chicago area. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to get over here or not to show you the legend. I can't get scrolled that way. To the far right over here, that I says, there's a column here that says index. Let me see if I can pull this over a bit. There we go. That legend says this is the index. The index is, helps you to determine the strength of that particular segment. So if I wanted to, I could sort of zoom in here and I could see, okay, in McLean County, woo, here we go. This is McLean County, at least. We can see a little bit more information there about McLean County. And this says down here, we're in the 3rd quartile or quintile. So that's 2040, about 60%. So that's a pretty, let me scroll back out over here. Come on. There it is. There's McLean County. Sorry, a little touchy to move around, but be patient with it. So you get a sense for where these households are located. An index of 101.6 is not particularly high. If you look right here in DuPage County, you'll see that index is 340. So again, we don't necessarily know exactly what the strength of those market segments are that I was showing you before, but once we're in the map, we might be able to poke around a little bit and sort of figure that out a little bit. Kind of a lot of work. So I'm going to go back here. Now remember, you're in a new tab, so to go back to the original, you would go back and click on that particular tab, or you would click in that window. So here are the ways that we can, the different segments that we have in this particular zip code. One other way, and again, you can look, one other way that we can segment this here is to look at the cycle segmentation, and it tells us a little bit different kinds of information about mid-scale, younger, mostly with kids, if we look at paying it down. And then again, we're going to have to wait for this to render. So I'm almost done, but I'm waiting for this to render. As we're waiting for that to render, I'm going to tell you I'm going to come back in a minute. We're going to click on segment details, and it's going to show us sort of all of the segments that are available, and we can make use of that information as well. All right, coming up now, it's a little bit grayed out, but you can see, it tells us how many households there are. You can see the median household income is a little lower. I know it's dark, but I want to get through this. Down here, lifestyle and media traits, we have a little bit more information about preparing taxes online, and we have insurance and watches NASCAR. Sort of the age ranges are 25 to 44. Mostly this segment has kids, and holy cow, this map is taking a long time to render because, as you can see, this is a segment that is represented here to some degree or another, pretty much everywhere. All right. So anyway, this is just, again, it's a different way to segment the market over the original way that we looked at it, which was through, as we go back here, through Prism Premier was the original, that's the cycle, and we could also look at this via connections, which is another way of segmenting the information. I did want to show you segment details really quickly. You can go through here and you can poke around in these segments and see what they are, and that might give you some information. All right, I'm going to let you go now. Have fun.